Okay. I know it takes a minute for the comments to come through, unless it's just us, and that's okay too.
That's fine. Just have a chat.
So anyway, yeah, Pinterest is just one of those things where it's just like, oh my gosh. All
High
right.
standards, very high standards.
Yeah,
Although it has been
exactly.
great for like kitchen inspiration. So we're like remodeling our house at the moment, and like for kitchens and stuff, it's quite good to, have a lot to
Yes.
look through.
Yeah, especially any remodel. Okay. Well, we should probably introduce ourselves in case nobody's
Yeah.
here. You know me. You guys are at my channel. You know who I am. But I am very, very excited because I pretty much have been waiting for this for years and years and years. And now she's finally on my channel. I'm going to let her introduce herself because she is fabulous. I'll go this way. But yeah, go ahead, Harry. I'm just so excited to have you.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. I'm Harriet Moore. I write under the pen name H.R. Moore. I write fantasy romance, and I started FaRo, and I write both epic fantasy romance and paranormal romance, and then epic contemporary romance. And so I write kind of everything within the fantasy romance genre.
Yes, I'm so excited. I remember seeing you at a Polycon. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna purchase some books and everything was sold out. Like
It was
everything was
sold out. Yeah.
real fast. Hi, Sarah. And hey, April, how's it going? Yeah, I was just like, I got some art, and that's all I ended up walking away with because everything was sold out. Okay, so talk about your new, because I know you just finished writing. You have projects in the works. Are you allowed to talk about talk about that series? Because this is book 4, right?
Well, so the kind of yes and also no. So the book I just released on the 1st of February is Dragons of Azred, which is book 2 in the Shadow and Ash duology.
Okay.
So that is epic fantasy, another world, swords and sorcery, follows Queen Fire, who has conquered 5 kingdoms. And there is a legend that says ruler unites the kingdoms and the dragons will return. And so she's like, well, I have conquered the 5 kingdoms, so now I want my dragons. So she's off on a quest for dragons, and she comes across a brooding king in the north who isn't so sure that he would like to help her find the dragons. So there's a kind of enemies to lovers-esque vibe. And so book 2 in the duology has just come out, so that's now complete, which is very exciting. And then there are 2 other stories set in that world,
Okay.
which are kind of like side stories, which you can kind of either read as a standalone or kind of in between books 1 and 2. So.
Right. Because on Goodreads, I thought I might be thinking of something else, but I thought that they were together. For some reason, I was thinking they were together and they're separate, right?
Like that. Yeah, I mean, I haven't been on Goodreads for a while because I think a lot of authors just avoid it like the plague these days.
Oh yeah, I understand that for sure. Okay. And your friend is joining us. I'm very excited. Let me introduce. Actually, I won't even introduce her. I'm just gonna pop her up. Hi.
Thank you all so much for having me at the last minute.
Oh my God. I am so excited. Harry was telling me, and I was just like, yes, please.
Thank you.
So I have to admit, I have not read your book yet, but I put it as gonna read for this month. So I'm very excited to check it out. So, but please introduce yourself. I just wanted to talk to you. I just kind of bounced into it.
I'm Bella Roth. I'm the author of the Bloodgrace series, which is an epic fantasy romance with vampires. And I have had the absolute delight of being on the FaRo Feb volunteer team. Harriet brought me on a couple years ago, really early on. So it's just been wonderful to be involved in FaRo Feb over the years and just see how our community has grown. So thank you, Harriet. You're the reason we're all here.
I think Bella was like our first ever follower, and she's like our most loyal, wonderful volunteer, and does a lot for the community. So we should all be thankful to Bella.
You guys are both amazing. Let's just I'm just here for the ride.
I was like that stalker person who messaged Harry at the first FaRo Feb, please, can I help with anything? Do you need people to get involved? This thing you're doing is so cool.
So. Yeah, don't feel bad because Harry gets messages from me all the time. I'm like, oh my gosh, she didn't think I'm crazy. But hey, Melissa, how's it going?
I'm just really happy when anyone wants to get involved.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like the more the merrier. Like there's so many people reading. Something that I was hoping that this would turn into is like a fantasy romance like convention. Like something where it's like just fantasy romance where it's like, because it's hard because you have a Polycon, which is kind of catering to that a little bit. And then you have Book Bonanza, but that's more contemporary. I mean, it's just literally not anything that's like strictly fantasy romance. And I would buy a ticket. Like I would buy a ticket. I'd be there. Like hands down, fantasy romance is my absolute favorite jam, everything. So yeah. But yeah, I was excited though that Harry ended up starting this because I've been bugging her too. But thank you guys for coming. And I can't even, but the bigger question is, because I've already asked Harriet this, is what are you working on any projects right now?
Oh, I am. I'm actually writing book 7 in the Blood Grace series. So most people are probably familiar with the first book, Blood Mercy. And so now we're actually already on book 7, which it follows the same couple through the whole series. So it's been such a fun challenge to just stay on this epic adventure with these characters and to keep ramping up the epic stakes and exploring the relationships. So
is it a slow
burn? No one understands how she does it. It's really hard.
I wish I could say, oh, it's just I'm so impressive. Look at me writing these long books, but I can't write short books. I respect people with that skill.
That's really a challenge. I mean, I attempted to write a book at one point in time, and I'll tell you, it is a lot easier to say I'm going to write a book than to actually write a book, get published, because it's not just about writing the book, editing it, and things like that. You have to actually find a publisher, put your letters out, or even if you're self-publishing, all of that takes huge amounts of time. You guys are phenomenal for doing that. Like, I'm a fan. I'm here for it. So would you say your books are they like slow burn? Are they, because it follows the same couple, so would it be like a slow burn throughout the 7 books?
It does start out as a very slow burn in the first book. And then through a good portion of the series, they're an established couple. So it becomes faster burn once they're in a committed relationship. But there's so much happening to these two people. So they get separated at one point. So there's a lot of obstacles because it's a forbidden love story.
Ooh, like a Romeo Juliet type thing?
Yeah, because she's a vampire and she's a human. And the humans and vampires are not supposed to get along at all.
For sure. So. That's exciting.
But it is like a different take on vampires. So it's like a slightly different,
There is setup. So many people, especially like if you're in the comments, you love vampires, throw it out there. But they're like, even if you liked Edward and Bella, you'll come to this being like, I want more of it. So it's not like if you love vampires, which I do love vampires, I try to seek out books that have vampires in it. You know what I mean? Just to get more of that. So
yeah. I called them Hesperines in my story. I made up kind of a fantasy term for them just because I diverged so much from traditional vampire lore. But I am a huge vampire fangirl. I love anything with vampires. So I hope it's something that if you're a vampire fan, you'll enjoy it. But if you're looking for kind of like a fresh take, hopefully it'll be something a little bit different to kind of spice up your vampire reading.
How did you come up with the world?
This is a really fun question, and it's actually something we were talking about on one of the other FaRo Feb panels. And I think most of us agree that because we write fantasy romance, the world tends to grow out of the characters. We tend to start with the characters, and then we kind of build their world around them. At least that's how it works.
I'm going to completely disagree at this point, but
Okay, perfect. Let's hear the other side.
So I did see that panel, and I found it really interesting that everyone was that way. And I think the thing that is really interesting about doing FaRo Feb is that we have an author Discord server. We have I don't know how many authors we have in there now, like 250, something like that. Yeah. And it's really active, and everyone is writing the same stuff. So it's really great to like be able to see how other people do things. And I think it's just been great just being like, you know, everyone writes in different ways, everyone starts from a different place, everyone has a different approach. And so it was interesting in that panel that everyone was like, yep, that's how I do it.
Maybe we just accidentally got all of the character first people on that particular panel.
I don't know.
It's interesting too, because I love Sarah J. Maas. Like, she'll always be a favorite of mine. I mean, if you write fantasy romance, you know who she is. And something I did critique on her newest book, well, Crescent City, the first book, it's not her newest, but the first book, she info dumped that. And I was wondering if it's because she had the world built first, that she just started throwing in all the world instead of like progressing with the characters and just like, and I'm not a writer. So this is me asking you guys this question of like, do you think it's easier to have the characters first because then you can like slowly introduce the world, or is it easier to have the world first and then authors just accidentally info dump? I'm not sure how that works.
Honestly, I feel like you can get strung up whichever way you do it. So
Okay.
I don't know. You know, I feel like you're always going to disappoint someone regardless of how you do it. Right. I do agree. I do think there was quite a lot of info dumping at the beginning of Crescent City. But I feel like there was a lot that you needed to know. You know, so isn't author always like, okay, I have to get this information across somehow. And you kind of have certain choices around how you do that. So, you know, you can either info dump, which isn't ideal, or you have to have some exposition at some point throughout your story,
and like flashbacks of some point to introduce the world or something along those lines,
or just telling, you know, at some point you need to know certain things about how the world functions in order to understand what's going on. So I actually wrote a blog article about this recently because it's my like pet peeve of criticisms of people being like telling versus showing. I'm like, well, yes, every book does that actually.
Like,
every
to an extent
book needs exposition because it's required, because you cannot show absolutely everything. But to go back to your question, you know, I don't know, you know, how that came about for Sarah J. Maas. You know, and let's face it, she can do basically anything she wants to at this point in her career, and we will all read it. So, you know, you know, I do, but I just feel like it depends on the complexity of the world and how much information you need to convey to the reader up front in order for them to be able to understand what's going on.
I think you're right, because honestly, I was thinking to myself too, like she could put like people in like, you know, any situation, people love it. You know what I mean? But I feel like she was more in care with her other books, with like Throne of Glass trilogy or series and the Court of Thorns and Roses. She took more care to slowly introduce us. And I feel like she added things as she went to where Crescent City was like, the world was built. This is where you guys we're dropping you like in the middle or something. But yeah, I think to myself though, it's easy to be on this side to critique than to be on your guys' side to actually write.
You know, I think once you get deeper into a series, the world building has sort of built up over time and it becomes really challenging to manage it. And there's the challenge at the beginning of introducing the world. And then there's the challenge as you get further in the series of keeping it under control. And so it's always like you have this huge amount of world building information and you are the funnel. The author is the funnel who has to decide how to sort of measure that out for the reader. And I agree with you, Harriet, about telling versus showing, because as someone who does write long books, this is something I'm mindful of because telling is a lot more word count efficient. And there are times when you have to tell to keep the pacing. If you show everything, it will slow down the story.
And also exposition can be really like, so character introspection is also exposition. It's also telling in a certain, you know, so when someone is like telling us what they think about someone else, that's also telling. But that's some of the most powerful character building stuff around like seeing how other characters see that character and their perspective. So it can actually be really powerful as a tool if it's utilized well. But you know, it's like chopping it in so it doesn't feel like one massive heavy info dump is also
Right.
a skill.
Right. And the thing that's interesting is I don't usually notice that stuff. When someone asks me, "Oh, how did the writing go?" Sometimes I'm like, "I guess it went good. I was entertained." Like, I don't know how to assess writing, and I've read numerous books, but when I get a mass amount of information, then I'll notice. Like, I'll notice because I'm trying to remember so much stuff. So like I think for myself, like Harry has good pacing. I know she does. I cannot wait to read your book. I'm not gonna lie. Like I'm very excited. I heard it just blew up on TikTok. So I'm like, gotta be part of the TikTok groupies.
Well, thank you so much for checking it out. I will say what I try to do a lot in my books. I'm very heavy on world building, so I think I try to say that on the tin, so when people go in, they're going to realize, okay, there's heavy world building. It's not a soft world building. It's really for fans who love that when the fantasy doesn't hold back and the romance doesn't hold back. But what I try to do is use dialogue. That's my biggest world building tool that I fall back on. So a lot of the world building in Blood Mercy is revealed through conversations between the main characters because they're getting to know each other and they're explaining each other's cultures because their peoples are enemies. And so he's telling her all of these things that humans don't know about, the Hesperines, the vampires. And I feel like, that really works well for some readers. And then some readers feel like, oh, this is, they don't like so much a dialogue driven story. They want more action, which, is totally valid. But I tried sort of an experiment in this book of using dialogue and wordplay and negotiation to drive the story forward instead of action. So it's always really fun to see how readers respond to that and whether they really enjoy it because it's something a little bit different, or if they're like, I really want my sword fights back. So,
but I think the thing is there is no right or wrong answer,
right?
And regardless of what you do. So I always joke, like my later series, the first book, I literally throw people right in because I'm like, do you know what? I love it when that happens in books. And I love just like diving into the action. And I've had reviews saying the pacing is perfect. The pacing is too fast and the pacing is too slow in the opening, And I think that's the thing. There is no right or wrong answer. And you just, you have to find authors who write the kind of books that you love reading in the style that you love, and that's what makes it interesting.
And
Yeah, I agree. Like, and one thing too is that I think this is a really great comment too. I think it's a hard decision with how deep you want to go into the world building, because sometimes if you go too deep, then you can't backtrack. So like say you want to make a change or change a decision that you made earlier on, if you go too deep, you're like, oh no, can't do that. Already explained this, so I get this. This is a great
Or
comment.
throwaway comments. That's the other thing. So like you'll be like, oh, this is such a great like thing to like add depth, and for my character, I'm just gonna like have a little throwaway comment about something that happened in the past, and then you like come back later and you write a short story that's complimentary, and you're like, why did I say that one little line that's completely ruined everything?
Right, or like, and it's so cute too, because I mean I read you guys and honestly like the twists you think of and like the turns you take us, it's just so great to like authors, the way they go sometimes and they're thinking. I always try to guess books. Like that is when I go into it, I'm like, oh, this is gonna do that. And I'd have to say, like, I guess them about 85% of the time. But that 15%, I'm just like, I am here for that. You know what I mean? I am here for you guys to try to trick me, because I don't want to be like, because I mean, obviously, like, it's a romance. We know which way it's going to go. As soon as you introduce the hero, we know what's going to happen. But how they get there is kind of like, that's the journey. That's the ultimate. And you guys do such a good job at that. So it's so exciting to see you guys take us to the front and the, like all the way through. So you guys do a really good job at that. I think it depends on. Yeah, that's true. Have you guys read Brandon Sanderson before?
I've read Mistborn, but it was a while ago. I can't really remember how it starts exactly.
I have to admit, I have not read Brandon Sanderson before. And this is why. Is because one, I was so nervous that there wasn't going to be enough romance for his. Because I mean, it's hit or miss because I know it's epic fantasy. So I'm sure it's awesome. But also too, I didn't know how like in depth he goes. And I need to try Mistborn because I heard that's the best one that has good romance in it.
There is not enough romance. There's not enough
Okay.
romance.
So see, that's what was my biggest thing
Thanks
is
for the
that
warning.
and I didn't want it to have lulls and things like that. Like I'm okay if the romance is secondary, but I need some payoff at the end. Once I get to the end and if there's no payoff, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I wasted a day, you know? So that's my thinking. But yeah, I know you guys write fantasy romance, so I'm like, okay, I know these people understand what I need. I'm gonna go in there, I'm gonna get what I want, and the payoff is gonna be great. So
This is why I write fantasy romance, because I actually do love those huge, heavy, epic fantasies like Lord of the Rings and just all the
right.
classics, you know, and I love, you know, escaping into a different world. I love learning about all the lore, but there's never enough romance and there's never enough spice. And so, you know, I think a lot of us would say that's why we write this, because there's all these fantasy books that we love or that we wanted to love,
Right.
like Brian Sanderson. And we just come away from it feeling like, oh, there's just not enough romance. And I mean, Harriet, you've mentioned The Witcher. You've mentioned.
I was literally going to go there.
Yes, go there. Go there.
We've all watched The
no.
Witcher, so yes, you guys could go there all you want.
Witcher season 1, I mean, basically a fantasy romance.
Yes.
Brilliant.
Yes.
Season 2, not so great, let's face it.
No, it like literally dwindled out and now he's not even coming back. I'm just like, if he wasn't coming back, you should have just threw it all in there. But
I know. Why did they shy away from that? Because it was.
How do you put Henry Cavill in something and shy away from the romance? Okay.
I know.
It makes no sense.
It makes no sense whatsoever. I'm just like, gosh, I wish that they did more romance in that. I mean, he's beautiful for one, but for two, like his heroine is gorgeous. I mean, like it literally had an A and a B. Like
I know. And they already had the angst. They already had, like, it was there. It was like begging to be told.
Right. Oh man. Okay. Well, anyways, okay, we're here. I swear we're here to read some books. What are you guys reading? I mean, honestly, what gives you, I mean, it was really fast though. Is what you read give you inspiration for what you write? Or how does that work? Is it kind of like inspire you just to write? Like, even though it might not be the same thing?
You start, Val.
Okay. Most of the time, I mean, I am a huge reader. Like, I love reading fantasy romance. And, you know, my writing very much comes out of me writing books that I wish I had to read or would want to read. So I definitely do read in our genre for inspiration and just to keep up with, you know, what are readers loving right now? You know, what's making our readers swoon? And you know, I think authors get FOMO too. You know, we're like, we see the latest hit on TikTok and we're like, oh, I got to read that, you know?
Right.
But I do sometimes read outside our genre to sort of turn off my author work brain.
Oh yeah. Like almost like a palate cleanser, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But usually that ends up just giving me more ideas and tying back into my writing too. So,
well, what are you reading today? Like, did you bring something to read today?
I did actually. I have it on my Kindle. Harriet, I am reading your duology today. So that is literally my current read. It was before this readathon. So when Harriet asked me to join, I was like, well, I know what I'm bringing. So I dived right into Dragons of Azred when it came out. Am I pronouncing that right? Azred?
Yep,
okay.
Perfect.
I dived right in when it came out at the beginning of the month. And then I realized, oh, I've forgotten so much good stuff from book 1. So I'm actually rereading book 1 now. I backtracked a little, even though I was really into book 2. I backtracked a little and I'm rereading book 1. So then I can dive back into book 2 because my memory was not perfect. And you have so much complex plot and politics. And I love political fantasy. So
I really do love a lot of plot and action and just everything. I love it all.
I know. I need to start reading your backlist. And okay, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, so to answer your question, yes, I definitely read lots of stuff in our genre. I read all romance pretty much, but I also read like contemporary, historical, some sci-fi. You know, I love reading all romance because I think, you know, it's actually, we're all doing the same thing, we're just putting it in a different setting. Oh, my dog is like tipping over my phone. And so yeah, and I also try and stay kind of up to date with what everyone's reading, because it's obviously interesting and insightful for, you know, what people are enjoying to read at the moment. And I have been basically in a Zodiac Academy hole since, I don't know, the end, like middle of January, and I've just been like back to backing Zodiac Academy.
I swear, those are addictive. Like my friends picked those up and they were just like one right after another. So you're in good company.
I mean, action, and also, but also like doing things that are actually really heart-wrenching and annoying, so that I just feel like I just have to keep going because I need a happy ending. So, you know, like I just have to keep with it.
Oh, absolutely. You're like, this cannot end like this. We need to keep going. See, that's where they get you.
Yeah. I love a cliffhanger. I mean, I get it.
See, I'm the exact, I cannot do a cliffhanger. Let's just say like Throne of Glass. What was it? Book 5. It was book 5. I don't know if you've ever read Throne of Glass, you know what you know when you know.
Yeah.
But then she did Tower of Dawn.
6. Oh my God.
And then
yes.
she went into what was it? The other series. And then I got my book 3 years later. So yes, I mean, it's one thing if you're going to do a cliffhanger and then drop another book in 6 months. Okay, I could deal with that. But if you do a cliffhanger and leave me hanging for 3 years, I'm like, ugh, you're killing me. Slowly.
Talk about Patrick Rothfuss. I mean, I need to know what happens.
Right.
Have you guys read that?
No, I haven't
Name
yet.
of the Wind.
Which one is that?
Name of the Wind. It's like it was huge. He wrote 2 books, and then the third one just has never materialized. And they were brilliant. Not a lot of romance, but very good, very gripping. And I don't know if we're ever going to get the third one. It's very upsetting.
Oh my gosh! And did he leave it out as a cliffhanger?
Honestly, can't really remember.
Okay.
It's been like literally a decade.
You'd have to reread the first 2 before you went to the third.
Yeah. And they're big books.
That reminds me of is it Melanie Ron, I think? She has left one of her series unfinished for like 20 years, and there's still fans who are just in love with her characters and hoping she'll come back to it. She's written other things, but she hasn't returned to that particular book.
So, you know, we're all waiting. I'm not that patient.
Yes, I'm not a patient reader either. Also, whatever you guys are reading in the comments, throw it out there. I'd love to hear what you guys are reading too. Well, we know that I'm going to start Harriet's as soon as I finish this one, but I was going to start your back. I was going to read The Queen of Empire because I always see that cover and I look at it and I'm just like, yes, this is my kind of like essence right here, because I'm a cover reader. So I hope you guys understand, like, I look at your covers, and even when I don't read the back, I base your book off your covers. So if I love your covers, I'm picking up the book like immediately. It sounds weird, but that's the type of reader I am. But what I'm finishing, which I don't know if you guys have heard of it, it's Vicious Bonds by is it Shonora Williams? Did I say that right? Shonora, right? I'm sorry if I totally slaughtered that. I tend to do that with authors. I'm so sorry. I really try though. Like, thank you, Harriet, for making your and you too. Like, you both have easy names to remember. I'm just like, when it makes it like, I'm not sure if I'm saying it because I'm reading it phonetically. So I'm sometimes the author's name I need to be better about like finding someone who's said it before and then like saying it. But
I'm glad you find mine easy, because a lot of intense debates happen about whether it's Vila or Vela.
Okay, so then maybe I was gonna say it wrong. I was gonna say Vela, but it's Vela, right? Okay.
Yes.
All right, good.
Yes.
Because I'm kind of reading. I guess I'm not reading yours phonetically because it would be Vila if I was reading it phonetically, right?
But hey, Vela's how I say it.
So
So
perfect. Yeah,
let's
that's how I remembered it. So that's how I know. It's how the first impression goes. If I say it wrong in my head the very first time, then it's always wrong for the rest of the time I talk about you guys. But
I agree with
But it's
Harriet.
like,
I think the initials are very smart. We should
well,
all
yes,
follow Harriet's example.
but not that on trend for our genre. And although
I think
HR
it's
more is easy
cool.
to say, FaRo Feb, everyone says it differently. No one knows how to say it.
And there was an intense debate the other day among some of the authors. No, it's FaRo. As in,
I mean, I don't mind one way or another.
I don't think there's a
Like,
right
say
or
it how you
wrong
want,
way.
so long as you read fantasy romance books, I don't care.
Right. Well, I mean, I appreciate you started this whole thing. So then we have somewhere to go for February and be like, okay, because I'm literally all my contemporaries have been pushed to March. So it might be a contemporary March, but it is a fantasy romance February. I've not read one contemporary, I've not read one historical. It is all fantasy this month. So, okay, so I feel bad. How long do you guys want to read for? Like 20 minutes, 30 minutes? What do you guys feel like?
It depends how much you want to chat versus how much you want to read. I don't
Okay.
mind.
I'm open. I'm jumping in here, so you all just
Okay, you want to do 20 minutes?
go
Hold
with
on.
your plan.
Let me redo the timer over here because I actually have this really cool thing I ended up putting together. I don't know. Do you guys know Tiffany from well, she goes by Neverland Pixie on Instagram, but I think on YouTube she does Tiff Talk pages and she showed me
Yeah.
how to do this. So I was like, yay. So let's see if I could actually this is my first
We
time
love
doing this,
Tiffany. She
guys.
also did some reading sprints,
She
which you
did.
were on actually.
Yes. Are you kidding? Like Tiff. Okay. Oh, I did it. I cannot believe it. Okay. So I set the timer for 20 minutes and we'll chat right after this.
Perfect.
Sound good, guys? And
Perfect.
then awesome.
Sounds great.
Can't hear you, Carrie.
There we go.
Ah.
All right. This is the first time I've ever done this, guys. So let me see if I could exit this guy right now. Stop screen. There we go. Hey.
Hey.
I feel very fancy right now with my technology. I swear, Tiffany was walking me through this, and I was like, it had to be like 10 minutes. I'm like, okay, and then what do you do?
And it's always miraculous when it works. It's like, oh my
Yes,
goodness.
it's like, oh my gosh, it worked. I can't believe it. But yeah, how did the reading go, guys?
Good.
Good. Did you get, I mean, I didn't even ask you, where are you guys in your books? Like, are you the beginning, middle, end?
You want to go first, Terry?
Go for it.
I am actually pretty close to the beginning of Harriet's book 1. Like I said, it's a reread. So, but I just, her books go so fast because, like we were talking about, her way of dropping you into the world and into the story, and the pacing is just nonstop. I mean,
Right.
her books are always page turners. So I love that.
Yeah. I really do enjoy Harriet's writing. She does a really good job. So
Thanks,
go read
guys.
Harriet's
So
book.
awkward.
I'm just here. I just came on here today to embarrass you, Harriet. I mean,
It's fine. You carry
Well,
on.
no, when we went to Polycon, her books were gone. I walked up to Harriet's table. I'm like, I'm gonna buy some books from Harriet. They were gone. I was like, okay.
Do you know what? I feel like a
I've got
Polycon
artwork.
was perfect though. Like a Polycon was just so great because and it's like really reassuring, I think, as an author, when you don't necessarily have that like exposure. It's all about exposure, right? Like if you want to be successful as an author, actually it's mostly about exposure. And so it was really like gratifying to like get exposure, and like people would like walk past my table and like look at my covers and be like, yeah. And I was like, oh, that's nice. At least, you kind of like feel like at least what you're putting out into the world does kind of meet the market that you're trying to write for.
You have bomb covers. Your covers are top notch. Now, you didn't pick your covers, right? Like somebody supplied those for you?
No, so we're both self-published, so we do the whole shebang ourselves.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So
Oh.
yeah, I've used a few different cover designers. But yeah, no, really happy with the covers. And actually my first trilogy, so Queen of Empire, is actually like the first book that I ever wrote. Right. And that's been through like a number of iterations and a number of different covers, to the point where I'm now like, because when I first started writing, it was like 2012. Right. Self-publishing wasn't really a thing. Like there weren't really comps, like comparable authors. It was really hard to find comps. So I mean, and I had no idea what I was doing. There wasn't like the support network that there is out there today, and the number of authors that are out there today. So I got it completely wrong multiple times, but I feel like I'm now happy with them, so that's good.
Right. Have you guys read Blind Falls? Sorry, I was leaving this up for so long. I haven't heard of this.
No.
So yes, let me know how this book is going.
But I think one of the authors in our group is an Amanda Milo fan. So I've heard of her. I haven't read her myself yet, but she's really popular with like alien romance. And
yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, Ruby Dixon's coming to a Polycon, or no, Book Bonanza, and I'm really excited to see her. I'm mixing up all the conventions these days, guys. They're just all getting thrown together. So yeah, I'm really excited to see Ruby, just because, I mean, she did the barbarians, she's done the dragons. Okay, Harriet, the one that you just wrote, that was with dragons, right?
Yes, there are dragons.
Yes. I was like, I'm trying to remember.
Yeah. I mean, that one's got like everything. I was like, I'm just gonna check everything. It's got fae, it's got dragons, it's got magic, it's got all kinds of stuff.
All the good things. See, this is what's fun about reading the writers. You guys could be like, I like this, I like this. You're gonna throw it in a fantasy romance salad.
Yes.
So. And Harriet always picks my favorite salad ingredients because
top fella.
I mean, people are gonna think that I'm just like saying this because I'm your friend, and I just want to make it really clear. Like, if I didn't know Harriet and I picked up her books, I would be sitting here raving about them because her heroines are so strong. Yeah. And we all love strong heroines, right? But
agreed.
in so many fantasy romances, the heroine is still weaker than the hero. You know, he's a fae, or he's a vampire, or he's a dragon shifter, whatever, and she's a human. But Harriet always has a way of making her heroines super powerful. They're queens, or they're empresses, or, you know, and I just love that they get to be as badass and morally gray as the men. So
Yeah. That's nice, because it's like you always feel like with the heroines, they always have to keep something back. You know what I mean? Because they're
yeah.
female. So it's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any sort of kick butt heroine, sign me
Yes.
up for that for sure.
Absolutely.
You guys have beautiful covers though. That had to be said. And then stolen.
I mean, Bella's covers, the recover is beautiful. It's very beautiful.
Well, I just added that one. I mean, like, Harriet's like, you got to look at the cover. And I'm like, I did. And it's amazing. So I was really excited to.
I'm just so lucky because my artist is the most lovely person to work with. And I feel like, you know, we've kind of been partners on this whole journey. And like, she's played a huge role in the books getting discovered by Book Talk. So I'm just really grateful to her. She's amazing.
Right. And I guess my question to you guys is like, what happens at this point? Because you guys are getting bigger now. Like, if a publisher comes and like, hey, I would like to produce your books, would you guys want to stay independent for a little bit longer? Or how does that work? Like, because some people are going to be approaching you guys pretty soon because of like your sales and things like that, right? Like, I don't know how all that works.
Bella, you go first, because you are much closer to this happening to you than I am it happening to me. So you carry on.
I don't know, Harriet. Like, I feel like I see people reading your books too. So
you're next, girl. You're next. It's coming for you.
One viral TikTok video away.
Literally, I'm not kidding. And we're all here to like push the viral luck your way.
Hey, you know what? It all starts with one little YouTube channel and then it goes from there. So fingers crossed.
In my case, it was literally one TikTok video that completely changed everything. So it can happen so quickly. And you know, I did get approached by Podium Audio to do the audiobook versions of Blood Grace. So I did sign with them as my audiobook publisher.
Oh my gosh, when are they gonna come out? Like, I need to know this because I am an audio girl, like through and through.
I love audiobooks. I'm super, super excited because Podium is fantastic to work with. I'm not allowed to actually give a date yet.
Okay.
But they're working on them right now. We've chosen narrators, they're in production, and so as soon as I have permission.
Are you allowed to tell us narrators?
I'm not allowed to say names yet either.
Okay. It's okay.
I know I'm being a tease. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Can you say if it's going to be dropping this year?
I probably should keep a lid on any more details.
Okay, it's okay. I'm a YouTuber, so I like to push the limits of questions.
No problem. I will say they move pretty quickly, so the wait will not be super long.
Okay, now I'm going to be like eyeing your stuff because I always am like, that was my question to Harriet when we got back. It's like, when are your books coming to audio, girl? Like, because
Nation of the Sun is in audio now. It is. Yes.
It is.
And one of my favorite narrators too. It's so good.
Elie's good. She's brilliant.
It's funny though, because I've got to reread it in audio now.
Same. Yeah. So. Absolutely.
Yeah, and book 2 is going to come out. I don't know, actually. I need to message Elise and just see where we are with book 2 because she's narrating that at the moment. So
nice.
Hopefully that should be out in I guess March, maybe. I can say because I'm not working with a publisher. So
yes, you have control.
I have control. So yes, and then hopefully book 3, I guess, by about the middle of the year, probably. But yeah, I mean, in terms of your question around publishers and working with publishers, I think like the thing that I've seen generally from authors, you know, once they kind of hit a certain threshold, publishers then start becoming interested. There are some new models around people are being allowed to keep their audio. I mean, their ebook sales. There are kind of people are being slightly more innovative around the deals that they're offering. And what seems to happen is, you know, things like foreign rights and international sales and, you know, all of that sort of stuff starts becoming complicated and time consuming. Right. So at that point, working with a publisher actually makes a lot more sense than when you're doing, you know, ebooks and hardbacks and audiobooks, which is actually much more easy to do within English speaking markets, by yourself.
Right. And that being said too, because I mean, if you're already going into audio, you're already selling through Amazon or whatever. I mean, the only benefit to being a publisher is that you're able to get into things like Barnes and Nobles and other bookstores. Would that be the main benefit of going with a publisher?
A lot of indie authors are in Barnes and Noble already.
That's right.
And there's a lot of indie authors who are approached by publishers and decide to stay indie, because it really depends, like Harriet was saying, on the business model of the publisher, what that contract looks like. So, there are advantages to being indie, and signing with the publisher isn't automatically better.
Okay.
But I do think the main thing that interests indies is traditional publishers do have larger print distribution, like you were saying, in bookstores.
Okay.
So you can totally get into Barnes and Noble as an indie, but it's a lot easier
to go with the publisher.
Yeah. So what you see a lot of authors doing is saying, well, if I can keep my ebook rights, I'll sign a print only deal with a traditional publisher.
That's smart.
So,
but there are other things that traditional publishers can bring to the table, working with editors, so you can have, set editors who you might love to work with, for example. Things like, and it depends how much you like doing the business side of being an author as well. So do you really enjoy choosing titles and briefing cover designers and, all of that sort of stuff? And is it really important to you to keep control over those things or not?
Right. That seems interesting too, because I'm like, I bet I could pick your guys' brains all day about, because honestly, as a reader, we never know, like we kind of get the idea of what's happening with publishers, especially if they're doing things that they shouldn't be doing, because we hear things that happen from other authors and we kind of are like the whole thing with Amazon kicking a lot of people off of, what was it? They were kicking them off because of pirating. It's like, so we hear things
that happen almost to me, actually.
See, and I don't understand that, because how can you even control that? So if they actually looked into it, I'm sure everybody's books have been pirated at one point or another, which is terrible. But I mean, what are they expecting you guys to do about it? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't understand that.
Well, and it is difficult because, at least as a publisher, you are representing a number of authors. So you have more power, especially if you have big name authors who Amazon care about being on their platform, or, any retailer cares about being on their platform, then you have slightly more power. But unfortunately, we haven't seen a huge amount of innovation from any of the big players, including Amazon, actually. We're all self-published authors are pretty grateful to Amazon that they have created a platform that allows us to make money out of selling our books. That's wonderful. But they don't have competition, so they are not innovating.
Right. They it's like gambling with someone who has the whole deck, You're like, awesome. What are we going to do here? Yeah, exactly. It would be really nice if they did have a little bit of competition. But I mean, with that being said, like, yeah, I just felt really bad. I'm glad that the petition was going around, that they actually listened to it. So that was helpful. But yeah, I just couldn't imagine, because if that's your main way to sell books and they take you down, you have your websites, but that's pretty much it, right? In my understanding.
Yeah, and if you're in Kindle Unlimited, you can't sell on your website. So, if you can't sell ebooks on your website, so you can still do hardbacks or paperbacks. But yeah, I mean, and if you're in Kindle Unlimited, that's the problem, right? So if you're in Kindle Unlimited, you're not allowed to sell on anywhere else. And so Amazon goes out and trawls the internet and finds, oh my goodness, this book is available somewhere else. Now you're breaking the rules of being in KU, because you said when you signed up for Kindle Unlimited, you would only distribute your books through KU. So now you're in trouble, author, because your books are out there in the world to other people, and it's not just exclusive to KU. And if you're in KU, all of your revenue, probably the majority of your revenue is coming from Kindle Unlimited. So if Amazon then decides to turn it off, it's a big deal.
Right.
And then it's also like terror. So if you see that your account has been blocked or your books have been taken down, you're like, oh my God, like this is my entire livelihood. I can't write until this is sorted out. I can't do any promo. I can't do anything until I have to drop everything and sort this thing out. So it does have a huge impact on authors.
And this is what almost happened to me in November, because someone stole my book and uploaded it for sale on Apple Books. Some stranger that I don't know. Yeah. And they were selling my book on Apple Books without my permission. And I do sell print books, hardcovers and paperbacks from my website. But as Harriet was saying, the bulk of my income comes from Kindle Unlimited. And so it was absolutely terrifying. And I was really lucky to have author friends holding my hand and handing me, a paper bag when I was hyperventilating. Because,
sure, absolutely.
Just having the moral support of a community makes a huge difference.
Well, it's just as good as stealing, they're taking your work and selling it. You know what I mean?
But I will say I was really lucky. Amazon, in my case, was really reasonable about it. They gave me a warning. They said you have X number of days to take the book off of Apple. And so I was able to reach out to Apple and file a copyright infringement ticket with them. And they were able to get the book taken down. And once I showed Amazon proof that I was working with Apple on that, they gave me more time to resolve it. So in my case, it worked out. Apple took the book down before Amazon's deadline. I was never actually removed. But as Harriet was saying, it is such a stressful position to be in. And recently, a lot of the authors that have been affected by this did not receive a warning like I did. So they had no opportunity to document the fact that they weren't at fault. So in my opinion, that's the most important thing, is that Amazon needs to do authors the respect and courtesy of a warning, because that gives you the opportunity to work things out. Yeah.
Right. I mean, these authors just sounded like they were just being taken down immediately. And then it was just well, you didn't even give me notice. Literally, they just were like, our books are off. And then it's like, oh my gosh, now what do, I'm trying to there was actually one of them I was trying to go read that day or something. I'm like, where is it?
It's like waking up and finding out that you've been fired from your job or your bank account's been drained by someone. I mean, it's
scary.
It's scary.
Yeah.
And, these people are, a lot of authors are breadwinners, and this is the money that feeds their kids and keeps their electricity on. And so it's a big deal.
Right. 100%. Do you think the fantasy romance genre is growing because indie pubs is more and more respected these days?
Yeah, I think so. I really feel so the reason why I started FaRo Feb is because I couldn't find books I wanted to read. I, had read books like The Discovery of Witches. I loved the TV show Outlander. Obviously the whole Twilight and Hunger Games situation was wonderful. But I was like, I wanted the fantasy, but also more romance.
Right.
And it was really hard. Obviously, then I read Sarah J. Maas, and then I read Jennifer Armentrout, and I was like, okay, this is great. But I still can't find more books. And in all of their reader groups as well, it was just people saying, I can't find more of these books. Where do I go to find these books? And so I was just really frustrated. I couldn't find these books to read. And I was like, I know they must be out there. I'm writing them. There must be other people out there who are writing these books. And anyway, so a lot of in-depth research. I went and found other authors who were writing these books. And then obviously we started FaRo Feb. But I think if you look at the number of authors involved in FaRo Feb, the vast majority of them are independently published.
Right.
Because traditional publishing hasn't kept up. Again, they haven't innovated. So they haven't kept up with reader demand. There is enormous demand for fantasy romance out there, as TikTok has proven. And now it's kind of being reverse engineered that all of these independent authors are now going into Barnes & Noble, because Barnes & Noble are like, oh my goodness, there's this huge demand for these books. They're going to Amazon because you can't buy them in our store. And so now you can buy them in their store, so it's kind of reverse engineering. And now traditional publishers are going, oh my goodness, all these indie fantasy romance authors are making a ton of money and there's huge demand and we want a piece of that. So now they're changing their model a bit and then going and approaching, trying to cream off the top talent of those, or not even talent, but the top performing authors who've sold the most to then say, oh, we can help you. So it's all kind of going round the other way. And I think, a lot of that is to do with the fact that indie publishing is more accessible. A lot of people won't distinguish between indie and trad now, who read in the fantasy romance genre. So I definitely think it's had an impact.
I have to agree with you, Harriet, because honestly, I have to admit, I found who you found. I found just Sarah J. Maas. I found Jennifer L. Armentrout. I would even say Veronica Roth, even though that one Divergent series I was so mad about, but it's fine. It is what it is. But like,
don't read the ending.
Like, what is it? Cassandra Clare, those were it. And they were all stuck in YA. So it was literally like all the fantasy romance people were stuck in YA. We won't even say Sarah J. Maas was YA. We know hers was way new adult, even questioning on adult, but it's fine. She stuck it in there. It is what it is.
But Throne of Glass, like the first couple of books were.
Right, exactly. We'll say the first one of one series and two of the other series are definitely YA, and the rest were like, But I mean,
adult.
Right. But I have to admit, though, because you started this, Harriet, I'm not kidding. I have been able to find so many more authors because we were all in the same boat. Like this year, I've just found Calista Broadbent. I found what is it? What's her name? Hannah McBride. I found Miss Roth here. I mean, it's just one of those things where it's like we're finding more, like Adeline Gray. She just read, she wrote Belladonna. Like, I feel like we're finding, and then of course these are like ones where it's like they're more mainstream, but I'm like, we're also finding indie as well. Like, I'm trying to remember my indie off the top of my head, but a lot of these authors would not be a scene unless they went to a FaRo Feb or unless they had linked to what we needed, because like Harriet was mentioning, it's like they pop up randomly. Like it's very random that I would have run into you guys. Maybe not. I don't know. Like, just because on Goodreads, it's just, I don't know if it's like a computer generated thing or whatever's popular at the time that gets put under, like, if I pick a book and then you go all scroll all the way to the bottom and they put recommendations down there. I've yet to see you guys on the recommendations, and I wish I would, just so it would be like, so they can mix it in with some popular ones and some new ones, that just released, but they don't do that. So it makes it really tough to find these authors that are new.
It does.
Yeah, the computers are not very smart about recommending what we want to see.
Right.
And this is exactly the problem that Harriet has worked so hard to address, is that discovery, the reader discovery. So, Amazon,
and there should be a better way. There will be a better way at some point.
There will be.
I'd like to think, though, when you guys blow up, be like, they were on my channel. I mean, you're not, of course, you were on my channel first, but in the beginning, I'll be like, in the beginning, I had them. If you guys blow up, remember, my little channel will still be here.
But I think that's what's really nice as well, is like, it's actually, like, people do blow up. And, we've seen that through FaRo Feb, and we've had a number of authors who have come in to the author community not having a huge following and, have just taken off. And it's so awesome to see, because it kind of, it gives other people hope. It's like they learn things that they can share with everyone else. It's like, I feel like it's a team game. I said this literally like yesterday. And I feel like there's an author team. There's also a bookstagrammer, booktuber, book influencer, part of that team as well, who, have the power to really help elevate indies, which is awesome.
Right. And, and I thought of that too, because a lot of authors, people read more than one book a year. So like, if you're a reader, you're reading at least 20 or above, even if you read 5 books a year, it could be 5 of the same genre. So we'll read H.R. Moore's, we'll read Ross, we'll read Daniel Jensen, which, by the way, was she on FaRo Feb before the Bridge Kingdom or after? I'm just curious.
When did Bridge Kingdom come out? I feel like it's hard to remember. She took part last year, but not the year before, I think.
Okay.
So
yeah, Bridge Kingdom, go read that. That's So good. So good. But I mean, like, that's the thing. Like, a lot of authors where it's like, if they're going to run into you guys, they'll read someone else from that. You know what I mean? It's plenty of readers to go around, and they'll read more than just one book, because if they like that genre, they're going to stick around for the rest of you guys. So it makes it nice that when authors are supporting authors, or booktubers are supporting authors, so it kind of like gets you guys all where you're trying to go, you know, which is to the promised land of Sarah J. Maas, you know.
The promised land. She almost was too successful. I feel like she had a lot of grief to deal with on the back of her success.
Oh,
but anyway,
I feel like she's staying off of social media, which I think is somewhat smart, because with authors, it could be a double-edged sword. You know, you don't want to get into trouble, but at the end of the day, you can't please everybody. So I feel like that's a big thing. I mean, I can't speak from personal experience or anything, but it's one of those moments where she's getting her stuff produced by Hulu. So yeah, she's going to be on her way. Same with, I mean, Colleen Hoover, like, her stuff is being produced. I mean, you pretty much, once you start writing, you get that series blown up or whatever, and then when you get to them actually producing it in film, then you know you've made it. Like, so that's just what was it? I did go to one of her signings, you know, and she did say this. She's like, I knew I was going to be a writer, because if I wasn't going to be successful, I would have still put out a book at the age of 99. And I would have still been trying to write as if I was 99 years old. Even if I wasn't going to make it, I was going to give it to my last shot to make it. I'm like, that was awesome. And I feel like that's the same with you guys. You guys are going to keep writing, and you're going to keep trucking along. And if you make it, which you are making it to be real, because everybody knows you guys. So like, you guys are just keep trucking, because I swear I'm just excited I had you guys first.
I think as we see our, members of our community being, like Harriet was saying, we've gotten to watch this happen with some of the authors in the FaRo Feb community. And it's so exciting to be there and watch it playing out in real time. And I think what's so important is to remember the people who cared about you before that moment. To not forget the book bloggers and the author friends and the readers who were there before you were known. And that's the other beautiful thing about FaRo Feb, is we have seen people become really successful, and they, could be off doing their own thing, but they choose to still support our movement and our community and to keep paying it forward. And to me, that's, the beauty of people caring about the genre and caring about working together.
And this is why I love Jennifer L. Armentrout, because
I was going to say that. I was going that way too, Harriet.
Because she does not need to get involved with FaRo Feb. And we're always just so grateful to her when she gets involved, and she wants to be part of, what we're doing, and is happy to support us. And, I just cannot, big shout out to JLA and also her PA Melissa, because they are wonderful to work with, and they deserve the success. They are like the good guys. So
they really are. And then because I know I don't want to keep you guys all day, because I could probably talk to you all day, but before we exit, if you guys have any questions, please put them in the comments, because they're here now. But before we exit, I know you guys have a few things you're working on. Is there anything you can mention that you're working on in the future, like that is kind of in the back books of like, oh, I'm going to start this project?
Are
you allowed to talk about it like that?
Well, I will just say that, some authors are working on another anthology, which is
kind of like the one you guys just did, right?
Similar, yes, slightly different. Yes, yeah. Once Upon a Forbidden Desire, which is also 99 cents for the moment, by the way, if anyone wants to pick it up.
Yeah, I will link that in the comments after this is done, so you guys can go and pick it up. So if you guys want it for 99 cents. But if you're watching this a week later, it might not be 99 cents. So
I think the deal ends on the 17th.
I think you've got a few days.
Okay, so I'll link it in the comments so everybody knows 99 cents for a few. I'm going to actually go purchase it too. Because I need it. I want to. The problem is I want to get a hard copy so you guys could all sign it.
Oh, that's so cool.
So many of us are coming to a Polycon next year if you're going to be there.
Yes.
I wasn't going this year because I already chose, my husband's like 2 signings a year. I'm like, gosh, how can I pick between the two? But all the bookstagrammers are going to Book Bonanza this year. So that's like the big, like, but again, not so many fantasy romance people will be there. I think Daniel, or is it Daniel, or is it Daniel or Daniela? I'm sorry, I always miss L. Jensen.
Danielle L. Jensen. Danielle
Jensen. I think she's going to be at Book Bonanza this year, so I could get all my books signed. Because if you go to these book conventions, I'm going to do a video on book conventions. I've already decided this. But if you go to book conventions, you need to pre-order. Don't be like me and just show up and expect Harriet to have books at her table or Miss Jensen to have books at her table, because it just will not happen like that, because people are excited. They want to try out new authors. They want to pick up their favorites, whatever, and they all get gone. So
there's another, just a little shout out for another really cool conference that's happening in July. It's the first ever Storybound Fest, and it's only for indie authors. So it's a really exciting. I'm sorry, what?
What's the location?
It's in Kansas City, Missouri, and it's run by the people who do Nerdy Book Box, which was also the first indie-only book box. So, and several FaRo Feb authors are going to be there this year. So we're, if you want to come see us in July, it's pretty centrally located, and it's a little bit less expensive place to travel to than like DC or any of the really,
or California.
Yeah, the big places. So
I'll tell you what, like that Anaheim ticket, that is expensive.
Yes.
I mean, I go to book conventions because I love seeing you guys, but I go with friends too, but I have to admit, like, once you've seen those authors, like, and you've gotten everything signed, and if you don't have a new book by them, you're kind of like, hi, I'm just here to say hello. You know what I mean? You kind of go for your friends. But like, now I need to go back and have you guys sign whatever it is you like. Once Miss Roth, once I read you, I got to have you sign everything. And then Harry, yeah, I've got all your books I need.
Well, we want to see you in person, but I'll give you a hint, another good thing to do. A lot of us sell book plates at our websites.
That's good.
So if you get a paperback and you don't get a chance to see us in person, you can order a little label.
Right.
And we hand sign it, and then you can stick it in your book.
Straight in the book. Yeah, it's just as good. So it's a signature. A signature is a signature. Absolutely.
It's personal.
So, okay. So it's Vella, right? Did I get that right? Love it. Are you allowed to talk about anything in the works? Anything that's, because you have your one series you're finishing, correct?
Yes. I might know something about that anthology project that Harriet just mentioned. I can tell you that. Which I'm very excited about.
I love it.
And then the other thing I'm focused on right now is finishing the Blood Gray series. And I can also confirm that after that, the favorite side character from Blood Grace is getting his own series, the Prince of the Hesperines. So,
okay, I love it.
Yeah, he's definitely getting a whole series just to himself because
so many people have asked for it.
Yeah, I'm so glad they love him because I am so here for writing a book.
Would he like a starred hero?
Very. Oh yes.
Awesome.
He's
okay.
Totally ancient, powerful, tragic, has been searching for his fated mate for 1,600 years and is alone. And I would never leave him brokenhearted. So,
okay, you have me. I'm so excited. I can't even tell you. I'm going to be, Harriet's going to be like, I'm going to be DMing her the whole time. Like, oh my gosh. And then this happened. You have read him, right, Harriet? Or are you like just in book one or what? Okay, good. So I can't spoil anything for you. It's the worst when I'm like, start getting on a rampage and my friends are like, I haven't read this yet.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, we're definitely going to be excited. Yeah, I think that's going to be super exciting to see all you guys have to come up with. And like, especially since like you're building your followers and you're building your fans, I guess is a good way to put it now. So they're going to be tracking you guys down at signings. Cause I mean, my whole Polycon ticket, I was just like, oh, good. Harriet's gonna be there, get to see her
so
finally.
excited to see Harriet in person.
I know, we've never met in person.
We've never met in like physically in real life.
I know.
In these
It's
pandemic times.
to give people hugs is the absolute best because you know them. It's like I know you, even though I haven't seen you in person. I know you really well. But yeah, it's
Yay.
oh yay.
Thank you. Yay.
So
was there a question a minute ago? I just want to make sure I didn't ignore anyone. Was there a question a minute ago about Blood Solace, the second Blood Grace book? It was a while back.
Let me see. This one.
Oh, okay. So who are we wanting to punch? There's a lot of punchable characters in that book.
So as long as you guys don't ruin it for me, because I was like, literally, I'm so excited to read that series by you. That's going to be amazing too.
Well, and that's the second book, and it's actually on a Kindle monthly deal for $2.49. So just give a shout out to that if anybody needed to pick up the second book for a good price. So
are you guys on Kindle Unlimited, just out of curiosity?
Yes, I am. And then Harriet,
some of mine are and some of mine aren't. So my first two series are not, but my latest series, Kingdoms of Shadow and Ash, is.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because I'm like, I have Kindle and see, I did the thing where I don't know if this is like copacetic or not, but like I did the thing where I gifted myself 2 years because it was just like a bundle. So I gifted to myself and I got it for the next 2 years. So I'm very
amazing.
I do that too. I do. I buy years of it in bulk because I'm never not going to need Kindle Unlimited. I mean, all my friends are on there and
it's one of those moments too where it's just like I'm gifting myself a present. So I'm like, hopefully, but it's I just so many times I see you guys, I'm like, okay, download.
Do you know, I do the same thing with Audible credits though. I'm terrible of being like, I just 3 more, and then before you know it.
I don't even want to know how much I spend in a year on Audible. And but see, I'm a mom of 3 and like the sooner you guys get on audio, the easier it is for me, or else I have really Alexa reading to me and it's fine. But it's not as enjoyable as like buying it as an Audible credit and enjoying. And if you guys ever need Rex for narrators, I'm sure you guys know all the good ones, but if you ever need them, I read about 200 books a year. So
ooh, I know who to ask.
I definitely have read a few narrators here and there, but gosh, some of those narrators, they can narrate. I mean, they're so good. I mean, I know you guys can't tell your narrators, or actually, Harriet, I forget who narrated National Sun.
Nation of the Sun, Elise Gibbs.
Nation of the Sun. I'm sorry. No.
I can barely remember my name most of the time, so I wouldn't worry about it.
No, I'm like, I need to be better about that. I need to check names before I just spout something out. Sorry, girl.
No, you're good. Elise Gibbs. And she's done a ton of audiobooks. And she's brilliant. And my characters, I've got a lot of characters. I love a big cast. I love intricacy. I love, all of that stuff, and my characters are from all over the world. So Nation of the Sun set in our world, but there are like secret nations of reincarnating beings who live among us, and so they form nations that are kind of in different locations around the world. So there are lots of different accents for her to do, as well as having a big cast.
I'm excited to listen to this one now.
Yeah, she did a great job. She did a really great job. So I'm excited to hear book 2.
And I know for authors, it's really hard, especially if you're first starting out, to get audiobooks done because it's like a massive investment.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. And I mean, I will say there have definitely been authors who were approached by Podium or Tantor, and they decided to go indie anyway because, like Harriet, they wanted the control over their own work.
Right.
The king. Yes. He's evil. I'm working on giving him what he deserves in the later books. I can promise. He's gonna.
Well, let's be real.
That's the way to make housework fun.
Yeah. But sorry, you were saying?
Oh, I can't tell you names, but I can confirm that we're doing dual narrators for Blood Grace. So There's going to be a guy reading Leo's scenes and a woman reading Cassia's scenes, and I'm really happy with both the narrators. They're fantastic.
I didn't know that. That's so exciting.
Oh,
That is
yes.
very exciting.
Yeah, I think that the male narrator is, I mean, you know, I'm not gonna lie, the sexiness factor really influenced the decision making process on the male narrators. So
Good, glad to hear
yes.
it.
It's gonna make
See,
you
and
melt.
I have to admit, like, dual narrators are always awesome, but then there's some women that could pull off a good guy voice, like Callie Dalton
Absolutely.
can do a really good one.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember if what was her name again, Harriet? It was
Elise, Allyse Gibbs.
Elise Gibbs. I think I've heard her guy voice before too, and I think I really enjoyed it. So like, even if you don't get that dual narration that everybody strives to get, like, there's some good like narrators that could just pull off like 20 different voices, which is incredible. Like
Yes.
that alone.
Absolutely. I mean, some of my favorite romance novels ever have a female narrator reading for the man, and they just, it's unforgettable. Their performance is great. So
I don't know how they do it, but they just do. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So, but
that is not my talent. Putting the words down is my talent. Reading them aloud is not.
I know someone asked me the other day if I'd narrated my own audiobook, and I was like, no, I am not.
You have a beautiful accent, girl. You could have, like, if you ever people are dying for that accent.
That's true.
Thank you, but can you imagine, like, that I would just be like reading the spicy scenes, and like people that you know are gonna like listen. I mean, just too much.
It's one thing to write it and you don't have to, they're like, okay, HR more, it's not really associated, but the second your voice gets into it, you're associated.
Oh my goodness.
There's definitely that moment in the audiobook production process where the reality hits you that a real live human being is going to read your spice aloud. And you're just like, and then, you know, like, if you ever like go to one of the conferences or any, you know, the audio awards or anything, you sort of envision, wow, I might meet my narrator someday, and I have to look this person in the eye, knowing that they read all of that.
Girl, they are so professional. They are so
they really are.
I met that at Book Bonanza. They know I listen to them narrating that, and they keep it real. They're just like, thank you so much. We love you guys. Like Zachary Reber, Teddy Hamilton, right? See, I can't remember anybody's name at this point. Sorry, Harriet. Like, I have like literally.
I can't either. I'm literally terrible with names.
Joe Arden, like these guys, like they keep it for real. They keep it real. Like they're just so appreciative. We're listening to it that they're just like, and they're the same when you guys ask them to narrate. They're so appreciative of getting the jobs that they're just like, you guys are the best. Thank you so much. They don't care. I mean, they care what's in the book, but you know what I'm saying? Like it's just another day at work for them.
But again, it's like the whole team, it's like the team thing, you know, like they are like the book community is just so much bigger than like readers and authors, and they're another part of the kind of modern day book community, and they've had this whole explosion in demand, and they've, you know, been able to like make a career out of doing something that they couldn't necessarily have done before.
Well, I don't even know if they could keep up with demand. Some of them are like, sorry, I'm like 6 months out. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah. One of the narrators that I was thinking that I kind of requested was just too booked, so we didn't go with her, but I was really happy with who we did pick.
Or Ava or is it Ava Erickson? Ava Erickson? Maybe Ava Erickson. Or I feel like I could guess her.
I don't know if you're familiar with Shane East.
Oh, Shane! That's that is who's reading my book right now.
Like he specializes in romance.
He's reading Vicious Bonds right now, and he is just.
Please
get him for one of your guys' books.
He's my hypothetical dream narrator for the side character I'm writing the next series about, Rudira. So I don't know if I will get him or not. That's completely hypothetical, but that's my wish
pretty
list.
in person as he is with his voice. So you never know if the narrators are going to match their voices. He does. He's very beautiful. But like, it's one of those moments too where, yeah, I could definitely put a list together for you guys of like narrators. If they're busy, that's great. And if they're not, like, take them. Like Callie Dalton, please use them for one of your books. She did all Mariana Zapata's books, and it just they are.
If I do Kingdoms of Shadow and Ash, I'm going to come to you and be like, who should I get?
And we could talk through them too, because some of the contemporary authors, they have great voices, but I can't see them doing fantasy. And it depends how many voices you need. Like they have a list of like, okay, I need like 20 voices done or whatever, because let's be real, you guys aren't doing graphic audio where you can have like a full cast roll in and do it all. So it'd be really.
And sometimes I don't like that as much. Do you know, like the Jewel, and if it goes more than Jewel, sometimes I don't like it. Kind of takes me out of the moment sometimes. Do you know what I mean?
Right. It depends who's producing it too, because then it's just like, yeah, it's if you're correlating too much stuff going on, then you're just like, oh, there's a different voice here. The only reason why I really love Duel is because then you know when when the male voice is really coming in there. But like, it's really hard too, because I think I've only heard it with Mariana. Please correct me if I'm wrong, you guys, or anybody in the comments. But she was able to do Duel to the fact where, like, even in the chapter, she was doing Duel. So, like, the male actually said his lines in the female chapter and vice versa. So, like, when Teddy Hamilton and Callie Dalton did theirs from Luke Off with Love, they actually read their own lines, even though somebody else was narrating the chapter. So I thought that was pretty cool. Instead of the female doing the male voice in her chapter and the male doing the female voice in his chapter. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, I think they call that duet narration.
Okay.
So duel is when they alternate chapters, and then duet is where they actually are both in the same chapter, swapping lines.
Right, and they'd be in the same room at that point, producing probably the book. I'm assuming. I'm making this assumption. Shanice is so good. Yes.
Yeah. I think we're all huge Shane fangirls.
Huge fans. Him and Teddy are like my ultimate like guy voices. And actually Zachary Weber is pretty awesome too. Like I love his voice too. I'm sorry, I didn't even get to read this whole comment, but yeah, with 4-5 narrators. Yeah.
But I get Harriet's point about sometimes you want to settle into the narrator and not have it change. Like you get adjusted to the person's voice and it's more immersive. You get sort of more into the story. I don't always like full cast either for that reason. So.
I have to admit though, when they did the graphic audio for Sarah J. Maas, The Court of Thorns and Roses, that was like a movie in your ear because they had like music coming, and then like when she was in the cell listening to something, the music was coming in, and it was just, they did a really good job with that.
I haven't listened to those audiobooks actually.
Oh girl, go listen. Because I'll tell you what, use only a couple narrators right now, especially when you go to audio. But if you do graphic audio, oh my gosh, if you have the option to do it, do it. It's pretty amazing. Like I spend money on those. It's worth the buy because it feels like a movie in your ear. So it's, even though you're having more than 2 narrators, it's just they put more into it. They give you music. They give you like if thunder is roaring, thunder actually cracks. You know what I mean? Like it's real interesting how they did the whole thing. But to produce those, I'm sure are just, when money is no object.
You have to be someone really big.
And I'm surprised like Jennifer L. Armentrout hasn't done them yet. I think she might be doing, I'm not sure. No, Elise Koval is doing them. Or is it right?
Elise Kova?
Elise Kova is doing them right now. See, I need to be better about this, you guys. I
don't know. Is she doing them herself, or is she? Do you know if she's
doing with the production? Doing the graphic audio.
But is she doing them? Is she producing it herself, or is she working with a company? Do you know?
No, I think you go through graphic audio. I'm almost positive you have a producer who produces it through graphic audio. They do it all, and then they produce it. So I'm almost positive. Please correct me if I'm wrong, guys, if I'm totally off, but I'm almost positive there's a producer for this, and then they go through graphic audio and then they produce it. I don't even know if she's able to pick the narrators. I think they do all that. So, but I don't know a ton about graphic audio, so don't quote me on any of this, guys.
Something to
This is
research.
just stuff I think I've heard from here or there, but we'll see. We'll see how it. I'm actually going to research it. I'll put down in the comments below if I was right or not. So I could do a little bit more research, but they do have a website and everything, and they tell you how they produce it all and everything. But hopefully you guys get to that point one day. That'd be awesome. I'd love to hear you guys in graphic audio because it is like a movie in your ears. So
I mean, we're only a couple of viral TikTok videos away, so you know.
Harriet, I am joining TikTok just so I can make you viral, girl. I'm going to go down trying.
Yes, let's organize. Let's build this momentum and
Girl,
make TikTok see the light.
Well, it's funny because like with anything else, YouTube is really hard to get big on. So is IG. I feel like it's easier to get more followers on TikTok than it is on like an IG page or YouTube page or whatever. So, I mean, I feel like some booktubers blow up really quickly on TikTok, but yeah.
I think it's just random though. I think that's the problem. So you can definitely get lucky, and we know lots of authors who have got lucky, and you cannot get lucky equally. And you know, and the one that really I found really baffling recently, there was this like CapCut template with like someone on a boat that literally just like went across, and there was like a still image of someone on a boat, and they just put like a caption above it and like choose a song. So it's literally the same video, but with just a different photo and a different like caption, and there's just no rhyme or reason as to which ones would just explode and get like like hundreds of thousands of views, and which ones would get like 100 views. I'm like, it's literally the same thing. You know?
Yeah, I know, and that's fun. It's almost like gambling. We're gonna just gamble.
Yeah, you just roll the TikTok dice.
Right, exactly. Well, you guys, thank you so much. Oh wait, hold on, one more. There we go.
We're picking up so many great narrator suggestions. We have to keep a list.
Yes. Yeah. But I just wanted to thank you guys so much for coming onto my channel. I'm so excited to have you guys. Oh my goodness.
Thank you for having us.
Oh,
yeah, thank you so much. This has been so fun. And we just appreciate your time and your manning all the technology. And
well, the pleasure is all mine. Like, let's be real. Like, the pleasure is all mine. I'm just so excited for FaRo Feb. I found some really fabulous authors, and I love dedicating a whole month to my favorite genre. So that makes it really easy. But anyway, I just didn't want to take too much of your guys' time because I know I want to get you guys back to writing. Let's be real. I'm like, as much as I want to hang out with you guys, I definitely want to see what you guys have in store. But anyway, thanks guys for all coming out, and we'll talk soon, I'm sure. Bye guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much.